Gotcha.
Teostra's Orphee is a hunting horn in Monster Hunter World, obtainable by upgrading the Black Steel Tree after you've unlocked the later parts of the game, spoilers, the Elder's Recess, and with materials farmed off of the Elder Dragon, Teostra. It appears to be modeled after a Greek musical instrument called the lyre. It looks kind of like a small harp, right? But in this case, it's also going to have a big handle because you're using it as a weapon. So that was pretty neat. I actually thought it looks very cool compared to a lot of the other hunting horns. The Teostra hunting horn can be compared to the Betelgeuse and Dodogama horns, since all of them deal blast buildup. Notice that it lacks the 2 decoration slots that the other horns have. However, it does deal the most blast buildup per hit, and one of its performances, I believe, increases the buildup even further. In terms of damage, it will probably perform best versus monsters who are extra weak to blast, such as the Elder Dragon, Kushala de Ura, Radoban, Paolumu, and Bareth. You know, when it comes to combat in Monster Hunter World, this is a game that rewards players for making counter builds. So we're going to look at the cases where you really should be most interested in using Teostra's Orphee, and we'll talk about which skills you might consider as well. What's interesting about hunting horns is often you have to consider the buffs that the horn actually offers rather than the damage type. The buff actually ends up being more useful than the damage type. It just depends, right? In this case, Teostra has 2 performances that are especially effective. The first one is all ailments negated. All ailments negated, that would be like stun, paralysis, sleep, you know, all of them, right? None of them work anymore. It's actually amazing that it does that. The other one, of course, is Divine Protection. And I believe Divine Protection works the same way Divine Blessing works. You have a chance that the incoming damage that you took will be reduced by 50%. It appears to work that way. If I'm wrong, let me know, but I believe that's what it's doing. I don't believe it stacks either. I didn't specifically test it, but I imagine because of how often it triggered, if it did actually stack with Divine Blessing, you would just go into God mode. So I'm pretty sure it does not stack. So what's really interesting about the All Ailments Negated buff is that it can essentially be used to shut down the Elder Dragon Vaal Hazak. Vaal Hazak is the Elder Dragon that causes effluvial buildup, right? That's the ailment where if you get afflicted with it, you lose half of your vitality, half of your health bar is cut in half. Well, you just use all ailments negated throughout that fight, and you've essentially neutered Vaal Hazak. There's a way, you can actually build a skill set in order to counter the effluvial as well. But guess what? When you're playing with randoms, a lot of them don't have that skill set unlocked. They don't have the armor, or they don't have the charm, or they don't have the decorations, or they just don't even know about it, or they, in other cases, they don't care. You get a lot of people who just don't care when you're playing with randoms. So if you're going to fight Vaal Hazak, even if you don't love hunting horns, if you really want to win because he's got great rewards, right? Like maybe 4 tempered rewards, and you're like, man, that's a good investigation. I got to get into that one, right? I've done this. You go over to your loadouts. You should have a Teostra's Orphee loadout. And let me mention this. The Teostra's Orphee requires a gem, a Teostra gem. Those are incredibly expensive. It took me, I think I had to kill 30 of them just to farm 1 more of those. I was counting. It was around 30, right? If you don't want, if you don't main hunting horns, but you want to have this one, just take the previous upgrade. I believe it's called Teostra's Typal, and that one's going to have the same buffs, but not so expensive. You don't have to spend a gem on that one. So just bring the previous upgrade, get the all ailments negated, get the divine protection out, and Vaal Hazak, he essentially will be neutered after you get those 2 buffs out. It's really powerful just for Vaal Hazak. Now the other counter build I wanted to mention is to fight Chiron. Chiron right now, in my opinion, is the most difficult Elder Dragon. He's the most difficult because he tends to one-shot people. He also tends to two-shot people. And how does he two-shot people? two ways. He stuns them or he paralyzes them. One or the other, right? He causes both of those ailments. You get a lot of bad teammates. They don't know that you're supposed to build, thunder resist. They don't know you need to build stun resist or paralysis resist, or they just can't. You can't blame them. And we all started with bad equipment. So in Monster Hunter, it's all about building up your loot, right? You got to build up, and then eventually you become powerful. Well, Teostra's Orphee will help you with this by protecting your team from stun and paralysis while you fight Chiron, and that means even if they do take one really big hit, they get to run away. No matter what, they get to run away. The other thing about it is you get divine protection too, and since this is kind of a math thing basically, if he's dealing a lot of damage, the fact that divine protection cuts a percentage of that damage in half, it basically ends up being more effective than regular defense. Now there's a little annotation to this. With Chiron, the reason you want to farm Chiron as a hunting horn main is to build the Chiron hunting horn. Why? Because the Chiron hunting horn has thunder resist large. So once you've got the Chiron hunting horn, you will just use that to fight Chiron. But before then, you will use the Teostra hunting horn to fight Chiron. Does that make sense? So yeah, really terrific weapon, is especially effective at fighting Vaal Hazak, and then is pretty effective at fighting Chiron before you have the Chiron hunting horn. You're going to want the Chiron hunting horn. I'll have a separate video just for that. Now, for pairing skills with this weapon, you have to consider that you don't need any skills that protect you from ailments, and you don't need the Divine Blessing skill either. If you're fighting one of the monsters who are weak to blast, you could consider bringing the blast attack skill. Since Horn Maestro can actually be added as a decoration, I would definitely bring it too. If you don't have that decoration, I believe it's the bone set, you want to take the coil. The coil should have Horn Maestro. That's what I did for a long time. I've heard people say, oh, you don't need Horn Maestro. You kind of do. If you want to spend more of your time chasing the monster, if you want to spend more of your time just focusing on damage output, well, Horn Maestro, what it does is it extends the duration of your buffs, which means you spend less time, trying to get your buffs out and more time just dealing damage and thinking about damage. Now, other than that, I'm a big fan of the vitality and defense skill trees for all of the hunting horns, because it has to do a little bit with the game mechanics for the hunting horns. The truth is, when you're using a hunting horn, you end up trading blows a lot with the monster, and this has to do with the fact that the attacks on the hunting horn, they're kind of slow, and especially when you go to use a performance, that's kind of where you're most prone. You're most likely to trade at that point. Since that's part of the playstyle is to keep using the performances. Well, if you're going to be hit by the monster, it's nice to have a lot of health and a lot of defense, because you just brush it off and you get back up. Essentially, it allows you to stay on the monster without needing to heal up. It allows you to keep the damage out, and it really lowers your risk of being 2 hit or 3 hit. In fact, when you build vitality and defense, sometimes they can hit you like 6 times and it doesn't matter. You're just too strong, right? So for people who think, oh, I don't want defense, I want offense. Sometimes defense is offense. It allows you to stay on your target, and that especially synergizes with the hunting horns. The hunting horns, you want to be able to take those blows because, again, you're more likely to be interrupted by opponents' attacks because you're the guy using the performances, and those performances have long, animations that are very punishable. And that's gonna have to do it for Teostra's Orphee. This is one of the best hunting horns in the game, and you should consider building one even if you don't main hunting horns. Just for Vaal Hazak, guys, it's really that good. I want to mention that I've now built and tested nearly every hunting horn in the game. I think there's just one that I didn't build. I also didn't build the Xeno, so that would be 2. I didn't build the Xeno hunting horn. Now, I've played with them for about 110 hours. I have been busy. Even if I haven't been busy with YouTube, I've still been busy playing the game. I will have a guide out for all of these, especially the important ones I believe will come first, and then we'll talk about the weapon class in a more general way at some point in the future. And right now, what I'm beginning to test are the heavy bowguns. I also have about 90 hours of Lance gameplay, so I have a lot to say about the Lance as well. Keep an eye out for my upcoming guides, and I hope I'll see you guys next time.
just want to thank y'all so much.